we discuss the new 2020 Lincoln Aviator, have a debate about the one car that would do it all for our lifestyles, and have you ever thought that your speedometer may be off? You may not be imagining things. Next on Talking Cars. Hi everyone and welcome to another episode. I'm John Lincove.
I'm Mike Monticello.
I'm Gabe Shanhar.
And part of being a Consumer Reports employee is debating. And one of the things that we do here, sit around the lunch table, go over to the water cooler and wonder why it's empty, but we talk about things that we can fight about. And one of them that's come up a lot has been, what car would you buy to do it all?
If you could just have one car?
You could just have one car. So what we did is we pulled together a panel, Dave, of people in three different lifestyles, parts of their life. We've got empty nester, Gabe. He's sending his sons out, even though they come back every once in a while for meals and laundry. We've got Mike Monticello, who's an outdoorsy single guy. Okay. And then me, who's got two rugrats dragging to soccer practices and all kinds of other events. So we're gonna tee it off with Mr. Monticello.
Okay.
Single, outdoorsy. What car would you do to do it all?
So which part is the debatable one?
If you agree with our cars, or my choice is gonna I think explode Gabe's head. So that's the first thing. My do-it-all vehicle, if I could only have one right now, would be a Ford F-150 Raptor.
I don't think we're surprised.
Oh, okay. I thought that was gonna.
But go in. So
yeah,
Raptor's special.
Okay. So the new one, it has the twin turbo V6. Doesn't sound quite as good as the original Raptor, which had a V8, but it's really fast, incredibly capable off-road. Fun to drive on the road. It would be a great winter vehicle, with all that ground clearance.
Yeah,
the four-wheel drive, and it's got a pickup bed, so I can haul my bicycles, I can take my dirt bikes, I can take my track day motorcycle to the track, and I'd get the Super Crew, the crew cab, and so then you still got room, in the inside to take friends to do whatever.
As a bachelor, how's it going to be in dates?
It's going to be fantastic. Women love the Raptor.
Yeah, so
I don't know.
Let's back up and say the Raptor is what version of the F-150?
So the Raptor,
because I wonder about the
Raptor is basically an off-road desert truck, the most aggressive pickup truck, off-roady pickup truck that's ever been built, by a factory.
Baja.
Yeah,
Baja,
it has very capable off-road suspension. It's lifted without being ridiculous. It has very aggressive tires. And it just also looks really cool. I mean, it looks really mean. But it's actually pretty comfortable. It's got tons of suspension travel. And it's just because it's also really fast. I mean, it has 450 horsepower and 510 pound-feet of torque.
I think that we should talk to Gabe about putting on the list for testing.
I know.
Yeah,
I think we should buy one.
We should do that. So on that note, we're gonna move over to Mr. Empty Nester. So what is it? I have some ideas of what you would need, but you tell us what are the needs there.
So we need every now and then we need to haul my son's drum kit, and we like a nice road trip every now and then. So you want something that's kind of fun to drive, because I'm not going to compromise on something that doesn't handle well or rides well. And gets decent fuel economy, doesn't break the bank, and in a pinch, maybe can have a 7-passenger capacity.
It's a lot to do it all.
Row seat. So that's it's a lot to ask. So I think the one thing that comes close to that is a Mazda CX-9. And it looks good, so it's going to be elegant when you go out at night. It drives well.
Luxury-ish, but without that luxury price, like a Q7 or an X7 or something like that, BMW or Audi. That's pretty good. That's it. What do you think of that?
I like it. I mean, I think the CX-9 is a great vehicle. Probably if I was going to buy a mid-size 3-row SUV, that's probably the one I would buy.
And one thing is you don't really have to worry, only, being empty nester temporary, with the real sloping roof, the style.
Yeah, I'd rather take something stylish than something, more nerdy looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the roomiest, but it's one of the nicest driving, and that's why.
Definitely.
That's why you'd go with it.
All right, I like that choice. For me, the family man, 2 small kids, 7 and 9. Soccer practices galore. Daughter now has to bring a bass home because she signed up for orchestra. I'm kind of torn because I've got 2 different ideas. We have an MDX right now. We don't use the third row seat that much. Now, I'm lucky to be able to bring vehicles home from here, but so many parents insist on driving their kids to something themselves. They have to watch the little kid go off and make sure they're safe. So I'm thinking the Santa Fe, the Hyundai Santa Fe, 2 rows, affordable. You could get a luxury, very nicely appointed one. But if I had to do a 3-row SUV, I would do the Kia Telluride Hyundai Palisade, twins, cousin, siblings, whatever we want to call them. Same platform, same powertrains. Great cars, luxurious, great for long trips. Took it to Washington, D.C. Plenty roomy, easy for kids to get in and out of. They like those USB plugs in the back of the front seat. So right there, I would go with that. I even threw the Chevy Blazer in. Chevy Blazer, I think, is a pretty cool car. Roomy in the back seat. Some compromises, but I would even consider that one. But why don't you tell us what we got right, what we got wrong, and what would you buy? So send us your comments to talkingcars@icloud.com.
Attention, debate club.
There's no way they're going to top the Raptor. I mean,
It
just goes without saying.
BMW M3 E30. No. But anyway, so that brings us to our At the Track segment, and we have a brand new luxury SUV in. Gabe, I think you picked it up. The 2020 Lincoln Aviator. We bought a Lincoln Aviator Reserve with all-wheel drive. Has a twin-turbo 3-liter V6 engine, 10-speed automatic. Starts at $58,700, and ours was $64,920 with the $1,095 destination fee. That's getting up there. I know some others have it, but that 4 figures.
Is there going to be a quiz on that later?
Yeah, there is. Well, people want to know how we spec'd it. $4,930 package for the Copilot 360 Plus, which you're going to tell us about, but that package comes with a panoramic roof. And then $120 for floor liners and $75 for a cargo cover. I think they should be included. But anyway, Gabe, tell us about the car.
It's about $65,000, and so that's on par with a lot of luxury SUVs out there. And I actually drove it quite a bit. We picked it up at the other end of the state, and it's a nice driving vehicle. I mean, it handles amazingly well for any SUV, and it's very steady. It feels like it's rock solid, and it's very enjoyable to drive.
Good highway cruiser.
Totally, yeah. I mean, there are some Lincoln-y kind of things about it, like the gear selector, for instance. You need to have the dexterity of a piano player with these buttons.
Yeah, and the center above the center console, right? And they're kind of hidden away also.
Yeah, sort of. And the adjustment, the seat adjustments on the door and the lumbar support, first you think that it doesn't work until you realize, it comes up on the screen, and then you have to futz with the screen, which is, of course, a distraction. And that they took a page from the Mercedes-Benz book of controls, and I think that's despicable.
Yeah. Yep. Well, Monty, what's your thoughts? You spent a little bit of time in it.
Yeah, I didn't spend quite as much time as Gabe, but I mean, the overall feeling when you get inside of it is just, this is a super luxurious vehicle. Feels really well done in there. I mean, there's lots of wood and chrome and leather and plenty of soft touch surfaces. And as far as, the highway driving it's a fantastic highway hauler. I mean, it's super quiet in there. I was really impressed with, the lack of wind noise, road noise, engine noise. The engine has plenty of power.
Yeah.
So that's not an issue at all. Just weird things like the driving position. It has a wide center console, but it has a cutout right where your right knee would be. So, and it's
softly padded.
And it's softly padded. So, they got some of these things right. I found the engine is a little bit loud. It feels like this vehicle should have a V8. Now, I know everyone's going away from that. But, the sound, the throatiness, the deep murmur of a V8 that is very polished, this doesn't have that. It's not obnoxious by any stretch of the imagination. But, even mild acceleration, you're noticing that this is, there's some engine noise there. And the other thing is, there's just, like you said, these weird Lincoln things, like the door handles. You don't pull them. There's this weird slim button that does not go the length of the inside of the door handle. So sometimes you actually don't hit this button.
From outside.
Yeah. And it's something as an owner you'll definitely get used to. And when you do get used to, I just have to barely touch it and it opens. But you have to hit the right spot for that to happen. And then the other thing is the steering wheel buttons for the cruise control. When you hit the cruise control, it then lights up these buttons. But the buttons are lit so that you would think you would hit them with your thumb, right? But the buttons are actually on the other side, and it's just unnatural. Again, this is something you will get used to, but the directions are right here. So you'd think you'd press your thumb like in every other car in the world, you'd press where the instructions are, and that's not how they do it. So,
and they're low.
It's just, like you said, Gabe, these Lincoln oddities that are just, why did you do that,
Yeah, I found, first of all, I counted it's 5 steps when you're in CarPlay, or I'm assuming Android Auto, but I have an Apple phone, to get to the lumbar adjustment. And a lot of times you set the lumbar adjustment and you're done, but if you take a trip, you're driving a long distance in this thing, you settle, the seat settles, you adjust around. It's just silly. And I don't fit very well in a lot of the Ford Motor Company seats, and these as well. Big bolsters on the bottom, the cushion, so you sit on it, not kind of in it. But it befits the price of the vehicle, the interior. Yeah. I mean, just gorgeous. Easy for the kids to get in and out of, though the button was tricky for their hands in the rear seat to let themselves out.
Yeah,
the little button on the armrest, it's a square.
Yeah, it's like an electronic button that you press, sort of like the Corvette.
The old Corvettes used to be XLR.
And once you get the hang of it, once you get the hang of it, it's no big deal. I was going to say about you're talking about the seats and the seat, having to go through the center screen. But even, Mercedes has gotten away with having the seat adjusters on the door, right? Yeah. But the difference is, theirs are at least somewhat ergonomically designed. The Lincoln is this slim, it gets narrow at, where you'd actually push it to go back and to go fore and aft. It doesn't even really, it's not even easy to use. Not only is it just weird to have it on the door, but it's not even designed very well. It would be nice. Yeah. It's just strange.
It's strange. I thought the engine was plenty powerful. EPA rates it at 20 miles per gallon combined. So, a little thirsty, but we'll see how it goes in our testing. The weirdest thing was the lighted buttons thing. Definitely has me just thinking about what the long term is going to be on those.
You mean that they might stop working?
They might stop working. Yeah. Now, I think it's very cool that a lot of the buttons on the horizontal part of the spokes, they change. They change depending on the function you're using.
Right.
And the little D-pad or little thumb pads on the side, not touch sensitive like the Mercedes-Benz GLE that we just tested. So interesting. Takes a little getting used to. One thing I couldn't figure out was how to change from trip 1 to trip 2 on the fuel economy, because I just kind of wanted to see the long term. It takes a lot of futzing around, to use your word, to play with the gauges. So
the infotainment screen though is pretty good. It's quick to respond. It has nice large buttons for your fingers to land at, and it's very well organized.
And the climate control, it's robust. You don't need to go into deep dive into screens unless you're going for the back setting. So I've driven it not as long as you have, definitely on the highway, very nice. Round town was fine. Engine felt responsive. Stop-start system, which shuts off the engine at idle and we're in idling situations, was pretty quick to start up. It's very nice, and I think it'll be very competitive in its segment. And it's based on the Ford Explorer. So,
but they feel very different. I mean, the Explorer and the Aviator feel like completely different cars, even though they share the same platform, different interior, different powertrain.
Sure.
They look different, and I think overall, this Lincoln it looks great, drives great, and I think, but I'm pretty sure by the time we're done testing it, it's going to be a pretty favorite vacation.
Yeah, we haven't finished testing the Explorer yet. We're almost done, and from our first drive, and we were sort of mixed on, not thrilled about a lot of things with that vehicle. If you got in this Aviator, you would have, if you didn't know it shared a platform with the Explorer, you would have no idea. Yeah. It's almost night and day. I mean, not just because it's difficult because that is a different engine, so it has a bigger engine. But just the way how quiet it is and how much better it drives, you would never know it was the same vehicle basically as an Explorer.
It's also big. I mean, it almost like, oh, is this a baby Navigator? I mean, it's a big vehicle with presence. And the Ford Explorer looks a lot like the last Ford Explorer.
It's actually, I mean, it's absolutely not a baby Navigator, because the Navigator handles like an aircraft carrier, and the Aviator handles like a fighter jet.
So on that note, we're going to wrap it up. We're going to have a first drive on this coming up on consumerreports.org. Look for the final testing as well. That moves us into our question segment, the favorite amongst the Talking Cars panel and hosts. Our first one is from Andrew, and he says, I noticed that several new cars have driving modes such as Eco, Normal, and Sport. How are these modes considered by the EPA and by Consumer Reports during fuel efficiency testing? Thanks. Gabe, what can you say about this?
We test all our test cars in the default mode, which typically is either comfort or normal. Some cars revert to the default mode as soon as you restart the cars. Some cars remain in whatever mode you left them in, so we verify before any kind of official test, be it ride comfort, handling, acceleration, transmission evaluation, that it's in the normal mode or comfort mode.
Okay.
And the one thing we do, though, is, when we do our track handling test, we're not the avoidance maneuver, but when we're actually doing our laps for evaluations around our road course, that's when we do a lap or two in regular mode, and then we start to fiddle with the sport mode, whether it's for suspension or for transmission, to see, and also stability control. Sometimes it affects the stability control. So that's the one area we would really fiddle with the modes, but otherwise, yeah.
Okay, and that's why we test cars for fuel economy ourselves and don't just take the EPA numbers for anything. Our next question is going to be from Terry from Washington, who asks, my 2000 Infiniti i30 speedometer always ran slow in comparison to roadside radar speed detectors, as much as 3 miles per hour slower. Are roadside speed detectors calibrated lower, or do speedometers vary that much? Does Consumer Reports check speedometer accuracy in testing? Monty, quick driver, but does a lot of the testing here. What do you think on this one?
Well,
what do we find?
Well, Gabe actually can answer this better than me. I mean, we do every car gets calibrated, or we test to see what the error is, and usually every car is exaggerating the speed by a couple miles an hour, Gabe, at about 55 or?
Yeah, there's no rule here, but usually European cars indicate 4 or 5 miles per hour faster than you're going when it's around 60, 70 miles per hour. Most of the domestics are right on, and there is usually some variation, but whatever. We verify that. We check, and we put a sticker on the visor that says, indicated, and the actual.
Sure.
So we can adjust when we perform certain tests.
Is it Monty and Ray-Bans with a radar gun outside, or
we
what
do
we
it
doing?
with a GPS-based device, so it's pretty exact.
Okay, I still want to see you in Ray-Bans outside.
Yeah. I just get mad when I'm on my bicycle and I go past those radar things, and it's telling me I'm only going like 14 miles an hour. I'm like, dang you!
Yeah, but that's on a hill climbing, so I have no sympathy for lightweight guys going up hills. Third, final question on that note that I'm overly overweight, from Eric from California, who asks, I was raised on manual transmission cars, but have been driving fleet vehicles with automatics for decades. I'll be looking to buy a personal vehicle with a manual in a few years, but the current universe of manual transmission vehicles is very limited. What would you recommend? I'm 6'3" tall, so compacts and most sports cars are not an option. My budget is $25,000 or less. Thanks. #save the manual. All right. I'm going to throw it up. Who wants it first?
Oh, I defer to Gabe, of course.
Okay.
Always.
Okay, so I found the car for this guy, and it's a BMW 550i from 2012, 96,000 miles. It's manual, rear-wheel drive. It's in LA. I don't know if it's still going to be there when he's ready to buy the car, though. But another option for him, I know he says no compacts, no sports cars, but if he picked a VW GTI, that actually works well even for a tall person.
Yep.
And that's not not a BMW 5 Series with V8. It's more for fitting for a beginner kind of driver, and, and more affordable.
No, and yeah, to maintain and keep as well. That sounds like a pricey car down the road. Monty, now, first of all, Gabe said he doesn't do notes and prepare, so I'm impressed by that.
He actually brought some papers today.
He did.
Shock.
But
so mark that down.
It didn't mean anything because I didn't use my glasses to read the notes.
Oh, okay. All right, that's fair. Monty, what have you got?
I printed out in really large type, so I don't need my glasses. But so I got two choices. I didn't know if he was saying he wanted used or new. New, it's really difficult to find, especially, with being a really tall guy.
Sure.
And no compacts and no sports cars, putting some real restrictions on what you can choose. So for new, I would say, and again, the key thing is manual. 2019 Honda Accord Sport 4-door with a 6-speed manual, and with the 1.5 liter turbo. There's also a 2 liter turbo, but that starts at $26,180. So that would be really close to his. Did I steal your thunder?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, particularly when, in a couple of years if he's buying it, so that'll be perfect.
So then maybe this. I'll give you this. You can come up with another one. The used one I came up with, again, because I want a little bigger car for him, is a 2008 to 2014 Cadillac CTS-V. This was the second generation when they had the supercharged V8 as opposed to the non-forced induction V8 of the original, which of course sounded amazing. But 6-speed manual, you can get it with 6-speed manual, and you could find a nicely kept 2010 for about $24,000. So that's another option. It's a super fun car to drive, tons of power. So. That's what I was thinking.
You have a third. What
well, so I came up with her third one was an E90 BMW M3 because that's like one of my favorite cars of all time. But then I realized, that's what I wrote down my original notes, and I realized he said no compacts. I'm like, dang it. Okay, so and plus I actually don't want people to buy those cars because I'm hoping to still buy one, so I don't want people to.
You want the floor to fall out.
No competition.
Yeah, I don't want any competition for me buying that car.
Fair enough. I was going to also say the Honda Accord.
Were you really?
Yeah, well, it's also because there's so few.
There's so few.
I mean,
so few new cars
that fit his category and his restrictions. I mean, without a compact, I mean, even
there's actually a fair amount of smaller cars.
Right.
You could still get with a manual.
You get a Toyota Corolla with a manual.
Yeah, but let's do some debate club here.
Fair enough.
My working assumption is that he's probably interested in something that's fun to drive, and some of these manual cars are there because it's just a low price point, and it doesn't really make that car fun to drive.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I took that too. That's why my original thought was E90 M3, but he doesn't actually say that. He just says he wants a manual. He doesn't really say, what type of vehicle he wants. But I understand what you're saying, but my feeling is, driving something like an Accord Sport, with the manual is still better than driving one without it. So
true.
Maybe you should get back to us on that.
Yeah. Send us a note and let us know which one of us was right, and feel free to just say it's me.
You hosting or what? I mean, that's my place.
Oh, sorry.
My gosh, send the note to Monty directly. Call him at 800-555. Well,
and we'll be there for you in 3 years too.
Yeah. I mean, look, the one thing about the Honda Accord, makes think back to the Accords with the great transmissions.
Oh my gosh.
And it almost kind of makes me hope.
From the 80s?
Yeah, the 80s and 90s, they were just fantastic gearboxes. And it's like, the Accord, they still kind of do it all right.
Yep.
Well, on that note, that's going to wrap it up for Debate Club Talking Cars. As always, send us your comments and your questions and tell us what we did wrong. TalkingCars@iCloud.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.